All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take Sharp and Shapiro. Happy Friday to you all. Coming up in hour number 2, if you're thinking of catching a movie or something, then we have a very, very popular movie producer. Our own Alexander Valentine will be joining us, giving us a few movie reviews if you're thinking of catching a flick. Also, Jim Gemma joining us in hour 2. He's with the Aviators. They have a big ballpark that's going to be opening up very soon right next to Red Rock. And because it's a new ballpark, that means jobs. So who are they hiring? How are they hiring? Big job fair coming up tomorrow. So we'll talk to Jim about that. Coming up in hour number 2. Want to talk a little UNLV hoops today. As you know, big basketball game tomorrow, Saturday night at the MAC. UNLV and San Diego State, battle between teams that are 4 and 5 in the Mountain West Conference. Now, as you know, Rick Pitino has been rumored lately that possibly he's been in talks with UNLV. Now, I never said that. What I did say was he was back in the mix. He was back in the conversation. And what I meant by that, based on my sources, is that there were boosters and people that were talking again about Rick Pitino. How do we hire him? They just couldn't come up with the money to do it. So that is a no-go right now as far as I know, as far as what my sources tell me. So Menzies had practice today, and he actually had some media availability, which is very, very rare. You know, a lot of these college coaches, they usually have media availability at least 2 to 3 times a week. Not the case with Marvin Menzies, but he did have media availability today. And he was asked the question about the rumors about Rick Pitino. And he answered that question a little bit, and he basically said that it wasn't true. And here was part of his response to that question about Rick Pitino.
The Coach Pitino rumor it's nonsense. I mean, it's I haven't even addressed it because it's unaddressable. You let social media do what they do. You know, when I got hired here, there was a tirade of racial epithets. There was a tirade of negative stuff. You think Tammy and I cared about that? We were happy as pigs in slop. We got our dream job. You know, so
yeah. So I believe him when he says he got his dream job. But I didn't really understand those comments that Marvin Menzies, racial epithets. I didn't understand that at all. So I go on social media today. I'm like, can anybody find me one tweet or one comment that anybody made in the UNLV community or otherwise that talked about Marvin Menzies in a racial way or in an insensitive way because of the color of his skin? Because I got to tell you something. I cover the team. I monitor social media, talk UNLV almost on a daily basis for the last 10 years at least. I've never seen one comment like that. JD, what the hell is he talking about? Racial epithets. What does that mean? What is he talking about?
What he's saying is that he's getting pressure, not because he's having a losing season, not because he's not having an outstanding season, not because the program isn't where it needs to be, not because the attendance is bad, but because he is African-American.
That's insane.
That is beyond crazy, and that is the biggest cop-out, one of the biggest cop-outs he's made all year, and one of about 6.
I agree, and in fact, a lot of people on my social media page are saying that it was the opposite. That when he got hired here, a lot of people were saying great things. Great that we hired an African-American coach. This is a great thing. People were celebrating that.
By the way, Las Vegas is probably the least racist city I've ever been in my entire life.
I mean, I'm not about to say that there aren't racists in Las Vegas.
But everybody pretty much, most races pretty much get along and blend together here.
For the most part, but in regards to UNLV, I never heard anybody say anything like that about Marvin Menzies.
Anything like that at all.
I've heard a lot of people critique his coaching. I pretty much do it every day, but nothing to do with the color of his skin. In fact, a lot of people were champions for Stacey Augmon. They wanted him to get the job here. We talked about Larry Johnson and all these other people.
And Greg Anthony, before his little incident, he would have been welcomed with open arms.
What is he talking about? I will say this. Stacey Augmon's wife, at the time, when he didn't get the interim job, she was accusing UNLV of racism, which I thought was ridiculous. But that's his wife. That's got nothing to do with the fans. What is Marvin Menzies talking about? Is there anybody out there that understands what he's just said in regards to the racial epithet? I mean, racial comments made when he got the job here? I've never seen anything like that. And do you think that he feels the pressure? He feels the burn of what's going on here? No reference there to Bernie Sanders, by the way. But does anybody think that
if he didn't feel that burn, if he didn't feel that pressure, he would not be playing that last card that he has?
Which you believe is the racial card.
Which he just played, which absolutely is the racial card.
There's a lot of people, a lot of UNLV fans that have heard these comments that are very, very angry, that have lost a lot of respect for him for saying that.
Well, what does that say about the university? You're basically calling the university racist.
He's certainly calling somebody racist. Yeah. Certainly what he's doing. He's certainly calling somebody racist. What I heard from a source is that Menzies had a conversation with Rick Pitino in the last 48 hours. and Rick Pitino assuring him that, no, there's no way he's going to take this job. No chance. It's got nothing to do with Marvin Menzies. It's got everything to do with money. Okay? UNLV does not have the money. Based on the sources and the information that I got today, they just don't have the money to hire a big-name coach. And when I said he was in the conversation, that was at the time a few days ago when they were working their tails off trying to get money, trying to get donors. How do we come up with this sort of money? They don't have the money, period. And what I've heard is that Francois is working to try to find either, some sort of young and up-and-coming coach, somebody that isn't going to cost an arm and a leg to the university because they don't have all their arms and legs. They don't have the money to do it. And it's a sad situation. But this isn't the time to be sensitive if you're Marvin Menzies. This isn't the time to use the race card, and it isn't the time to say things that are not true. What he should be focused on, and I hope he is, and I hope the team is the game tomorrow night. It's a big game against San Diego State.
It's a huge game.
Yeah.
If he wins this game, this will be 2 games. So Nevada's lost 2 games all year. This will be UNLV beating both of those teams that Nevada has lost to 2 days after or 3 days after in the same week that they lost to those teams. That's something to kind of hang your hat on.
San Diego State is very good defensively. They're a physical team.
And they're getting deep. They don't turn the ball over anymore.
And they're playing better.
They're playing significantly better. And they run an offense.
I mean, I think UNLV can win, and by the spread is pretty much a pick 'em, which is what I said on the air yesterday. I thought it would be. I thought it would be within 1 or 2 points. It'd probably be a pick 'em. This is a big game. I'll tell you what. If the Mountain West Conference tournament started today, guess who UNLV would play in the quarterfinals? San Diego State. This is not a great matchup for UNLV for a lot of different reasons. First of all, I think McDaniels is a matchup nightmare for UNLV. I don't know how they guard him.
He's a lottery pick.
I don't know how they guard him. I'll say this about Hemsley. He is a far better point guard than Noah Robotham.
That's not even a conversation.
And I think at some point Hemsley is probably going to have to guard Hardy.
And their guard play in general is much better than UNLV's guard play. They have about 4 guys that can really handle the ball and shoot the ball.
Yeah. I think it's another one of those situations where you're going to have to rely a lot on the 3. I think UNLV is going to have to make shots because San Diego State contests. I think San Diego State plays a very similar style. Maybe they're not as good as Fresno State, but I think they play a very similar style. Would you agree to that, to Fresno State, where they value each possession? They play good, solid defense, and they usually don't, they're usually in a lot of games, and I know they've been blown out, but usually they're in a lot of games because of their defense. And I thought it was one of those games where they played Nevada. Was it yesterday? I believe they played Nevada. No, the day before.
2 days ago.
Yeah, 2 days ago they played Nevada. It was one of those games where Nevada just looked way off.
And I'll tell you this: it looks like for anybody who's thinking about betting this game, it looks like a trap game. It is not. San Diego State will beat UNLV this weekend. I'm fairly confident about that. I haven't done a ton of research into it, but just based on what I've seen, I've watched both teams play probably 10 times each. San Diego State should win the game by at least 5.
I don't know. I haven't really thought about a prediction for this game. I would lean towards San Diego State, but the problem or the issue I would have with them tomorrow is just like the New Mexico situation. I don't know how they're going to come out tomorrow. Because of the big win against Nevada, you could come in there on a low. I don't know. But when you look at the way UNLV has played over the course of the last few weeks, especially against San Jose State and Wyoming, 2 just atrocious, horrific basketball teams, they could have lost both of those games. These were not convincing wins. I don't think UNLV's played a really good game in quite some time where you could say, wow, what a great 40 minutes of basketball. It's been a long time. You'd have to go back a ways. So that's why I agree with you, and I would say I would probably lean towards San Diego State for that reason. But I also want to take some phone calls on those comments that Marvin Menzies said, because I think it's very telling. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe perhaps were there 1 or 2 people that made some stupid tweets when he got hired. I haven't seen them. Have you ever seen anybody make any racial remarks? Or what did he call it? Epithets? Is that how you pronounce that word?
Epithet? A-P-I-T-H-E-T.
Is that how you pronounce that word? He called it a tirade of those.
Yeah.
Has anyone heard anyone talk like that about Marvin Menzies when he got the job here? I'm telling you right now, I'm being completely honest. I haven't, and I've seen a lot of crazy things said on social media, and I've had a lot of crazy people say some weird things about UNLV basketball. Never has it been that. Never. 257-5396, the number to call. We're talking a little UNLV hoops and Marvin Menzies comments today at practice, which are just mind-blowing to me. 257-5396. Let's start off with Chris. Chris, thanks for calling in. How are you?
What's up, Chris?
Gentlemen, how you guys doing?
Doing
good.
great.
What's up?
Hey, I caught the tail end. What exactly did Menzies say his comments were today?
He's at practice today. He was asked about the Pitino situation. He said that there was, nobody had contacted Rick Pitino. And then he said when he first got the job here, he had to deal with a, quote, tirade of racial epithets that were thrown at him on social media and negativity. Racial epithets is the word that he used, and I didn't understand it.
Are there any examples of this?
He didn't give any examples. I've been trying to ask people for examples. I haven't gotten one.
We've been scouring the internet, and we've found absolutely nothing.
I put up a poll on Twitter asking, do you believe him? And 96% of people in my poll say no. A lot of people have voted. So I have no idea, Chris, where this is coming from, but I think it makes Marvin Menzies look really bad.
It makes him look very weak.
After Jesse Smollett case is all said and done, you think people would start learning? That's a lie.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, really, really bad time for him to pull that card.
But
really bad timing.
It's interesting. A friend of mine today, Chris, told me that when somebody starts using the racial card, it means that they know that they are defeated. And I don't know for sure if that's the case with Marvin Menzies, but he has to know that there is a lot of heat on him right now, and he's in a lot of trouble with job security. So that would not surprise me, Chris. If that was the case, I guess that's the last resort.
Yeah, well, listen, gentlemen, I don't think his job is in jeopardy, to be honest with you. He took over a crappy team. He's made it halfway decent somewhat. I mean, he doesn't have stars on the team, but he's right up there in the Mountain West rankings, right?
Okay, well, let's have a good debate on that because I respect your opinion, Chris. In year one, you're right. He took over an absolute disaster. Can you tell me in year one that the team got better from start to end of the year, regardless of the talent that he had?
I don't know. It just seems like maybe there's just they're above average team at this point.
Okay, well, that's talking about now. I'll get to that in a second. But my first question was year one, so you're not sure. I'll tell you right now, based from the start of the end of the year, they didn't get better. But let's talk about last year, because to me, that's the key year. He had the top recruiting class in the Mountain West Conference last year. He had a very healthy Shakur Houston, who was the top JUCO kid coming out of JUCO ball. He had Brandon McCoy. Say what you want about him. McCoy was still a McDonald's All-American kid. He had JoJo, who was a senior, very capable at the two guard. You had Johnson, who was third in the country in assists in his second year, very capable point guard. And you had Chris Clybourne, who was a junior last year. The team lost their last 5 games of the year, and they were in the play-in game in the Mountain West Conference tournament, and they didn't even crack the top 100 in the country. That is an atrocious year, is it not?
It's not that good. And you know what? This is the first time I've talked to you that you damn well are making sense to me now because it's all facts and truthful, brother.
All right, Chris.
There's no politics involved.
No, Chris, I appreciate that. Can I just get to this year with you real quick, if that's all right? Yeah. All right. Yeah, so when Houston was healthy and he didn't get hurt, they lost to Valpo at home and they lost to Loyola at home. 2 horrendous losses, right? Then the fans just decided not to show up. You know how it is, Chris, in the Thomas and Mack, right? Like 2,000 people in the Thomas and Mack Center. So they lose those 2 guys. Keep in mind, arguably right now their best player is Amari Hardy. Hardy wasn't even starting at the beginning of the year. How do you not know what your talent is? I said that day one. Hardy should have been starting. Now, when you look at their wins, they haven't beaten one top 100 team in the country. In fact, their best win in conference was Boise State.
Chris, here's a crazy stat for you. Marvin Menzies is 3-29 against top 100 teams since he started out as the coach of UNLV.
That's right.
Okay. See, I love it. It's factual. And you know what? If facts are facts, and if you want to throw a race card in, that's just crazy, man.
Yeah, that's my point, Chris. See, when we don't talk about politics, you like us more, don't you?
I love you, brother.
Fair enough. All right, Chris, thanks for calling in, man.
Great call, Chris.
I appreciate it. Okay. I just try to give facts here. And for the people that support I'm so used to having this debate with people. You know that, JD. And I have debates with people about UNLV basketball all the time. And look, it's not that I don't respect anybody's opinion. Wait, let me rephrase that. There are some opinions I do not respect. Here's why.
You just really like your own. And that's okay.
It's the people that wanted Rolon Kruger out the door and wanted Dave Rice in are the people that have absolutely, positively no credibility in this town. I do not want to hear from you. It's the members of the media that call a win against Air Force a great win, who say because they outscored Nevada by 5 points in the second half and got creamed, that somehow that means Menzies should come back. Those are the people that have zero credibility in my eyes. The people that think it is okay to be a middle-of-the-pack team in arguably one of the worst conferences in the country in year 3. If you want to wipe out year 1, I don't wipe out a year. I just say, look, did the team get better? They didn't get better in year 1. Last year was atrocious. You cannot tell me with the talent that Marvin Menzies had last year that it was acceptable the way they ended the year last year. You just can't. You cannot convince me. Facts matter in this thing, and with the talent that they had, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. The number to call, 257-5396, 702-257-5396. Whether you agree or disagree, I will gladly take your calls. Let's go to Tony. Tony, thanks for calling in. Tony, how are you?
I'm doing really good. I think over the past week or so, we've seen what happens when a lot of the news agencies rush to judgment before we get all the facts. And I would like to think that let's give Marvin the benefit of the doubt. He's been leading these young men, whether it's good or bad in everyone's eyes. A lot of young players, a lot of players coming, a lot of players going. And I think we need to give him the benefit of the doubt here and let some time come through and let's get some facts. Having never been an African American, I don't think a lot of folks know exactly what it can be like if you come in and maybe folks have a hateful attitude towards you. And even though it might have been short-lived, let's hope that
okay, Tony.
Heads...
Tony. Sorry to cut you off here a little bit. Stay on the line with me. Stay on the line with me.
Okay.
Okay. I don't mind if he says that if it's true. Okay, but when you say something like that, and you call it a tirade of racial epithets, a tirade that sounds to me like it's more than one or two people. I need examples. You can't just accuse Runnin' Rebel fans of that without proof. You can't say something like that. That's just my opinion. You can't just make a comment like that. Now, as far as giving him the benefit of the doubt, I'm not sure what you mean by that. You're talking about facts. I just gave you a lot of facts. His record is 3-28 at UNLV, 3-29, against top 100 teams in the country. They dramatically underachieved last year. And as far as players coming and going and young teams, guess what? There are tons and dozens of teams throughout the country that have to deal with the same things that Marvin Menzies deals with. This isn't just UNLV. So when you say give him the benefit of the doubt, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt in year 1, even though I think the team got worse from start to the end of the year. But I'm talking about last year and most of this year, Tony.
Well, I used to support the Runnin' Rebels ever since Stacey Ogman, Larry Johnson, and that crew was
right.
part of this team, which we call the Tarkanian years.
Right.
And there was always a lot of skepticism as to the number of players that came and played under this program and the situation that they arrived here under, which no one questioned because the team was winning.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't believe that when you're in a conference such as the Mountain West, that with the situation being a level playing field, and what I'm saying there is that everybody's recruiting under the same type of rules, that it's any easier to recruit here to the desert.
Yeah,
when you go against the Arizonas, the USCs, the UCLAs,
you cannot, Tony,
having down programs.
Tony, with all due respect, you can't tell me it's difficult to recruit at UNLV. It is the easiest school in the Mountain West Conference to recruit. Dave Rice proved that. Lon Kruger did a great job getting kids to stay here 4 years, got quality kids. This is not a difficult place to recruit if you have the right people to do it, Tony.
Well, let me ask you, do you think that we've had upper echelon talent here under Dave Rice? I think maybe we may have one person maybe under Dave that went into the NBA. Usually that's the yardstick, isn't it? Measuring college teams?
Tony, I'll even give you a step further. Let's talk about last year. Brandon McCoy is a professional basketball player. Now, he might not be an NBA player. Even I think he's in the G League now. But he will be getting paid. He is getting paid to play basketball. JoJo's getting paid to play basketball. Johnson's getting paid to play basketball. You can make the argument that Chris Clyburn, who is now a senior at UNLV, will be getting paid to play basketball somewhere. I believe Shakur Houston will have a look in the NBA, and he probably will be playing basketball somewhere. You've got a couple freshman kids that will get a look as well. They had a very talented team last year. That's why they called it the top recruiting class in the Mountain West Conference. And those are just facts. That's what they were. And look at where the way the season ended. You cannot tell me that. See, this is how I judge coaches. And you tell me if you disagree or not, Tony. Not necessarily on wins and losses, but are you getting the maximum out of the talent you have? That's just coaching, and recruiting might be a different animal. You can't tell me Marvin Menzies got the maximum of the talent he had last year. You just can't.
Well, I guess the question I'm going to ask you is who determines who has the best recruiting class? What you have as individuals is far different when you look at people individually.
All right, well, we're talking about semantics.
You give them the chemistry as being in a team
Tony,
concept.
there's a website called Rivals.com.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That decides who has the top recruiting class.
I guess we're talking about semantics. Let's say they had the second or third best recruiting class. They were still in the playing game in the Mountain West Conference. They lost in the first round of the Mountain West Conference. They lost their last 5 games of the Mountain West Conference regular season. And I appreciate your point of view, Tony. I really do. We're just going to disagree. I think when you pay somebody $700,000 a year and you give them 3 years.
Hey, Tony, Dave Rice lost a total of 3 games by 17 or more points in 4 years. Marvin Menzies, in 2 years, 2.5 years, has lost 11. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, those are just facts. I mean, the bottom line is those are just facts. Okay, let's take another call. Let's go to Dave. Dave, thank you for calling into the Vegas Take. How are you?
What's up, Dave?
Hey, good. Yeah, I just agree with, I mean, these people you're talking about know nothing about basketball. I mean, their track record as far as coaching, the coaches they picked, Massimino, joke. They know, joke.
Agree. Kruger was the only good decision.
Kruger was a great coach.
Yep.
Cronin was the guy that they wanted. It's the guy they should have got, and they failed and just took what was next, and you know they took the bottom of the barrel, and that's what they got stuck with.
I agree, Dave. That's a good point. People forget this guy was like 5th or 6th on the list.
Chris Beard was on the list too.
Yeah. I mean, I agree, Dave.
And and as far as recruiting for UNLV, I mean, it's unacceptable to have this type of track record for our record for UNLV.
Dave,
basketball.
can I ask you a question, Dave? Let me ask you a question. Unfortunately, we only got about 30 seconds left here before I go to break. Why is it you think that so many members of the media and some fans, like our last caller, are drinking the Kool-Aid? Why can't they be honest and talk about UNLV basketball you are?
I just don't think they know enough about basketball. I don't think they can figure it out. I mean, it's obvious that the who you can get for recruiting. It shouldn't be a big problem here at UNLV.
Not for Vegas. I agree. We're not talking about Colorado State here. We're talking about UNLV and Vegas, Dave. Hey, I appreciate
Great call, Dave.
Appreciate your point of view, my man.
Let's be honest. UNLV should be in the Pac-12.
Well, where they are right now, I think that might, not to say that the Pac-12 is a powerhouse right now, but anyway, we appreciate all your phone calls. Thank you very much. When we come back, we're going to be getting some movie reviews from our L.A. producer, Alexander Valentine. That'll be coming up next, and Jim Gemma coming up in hour number 2 as well. Big job fair in Vegas tomorrow. That and much, much more. You're listening to The Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN.